Alright, well, I'm late to the game on this one because, as I said in my last video, I'm not feeling too good. I wasn't feeling too good yesterday, which is when I wanted to go see this movie, but I finally got out to see it today, and ironically enough, it was raining, so I don't know if that was a sign, but I didn't really think too much of it. But as you can see by the video title, um, this is my review of Darren Aronofsky's Noah, which that's from the time that this movie was announced, people were either enraged or confused because it's a movie that's based on a biblical story, but it's directed and written, partially written by an atheist. Darren Aronofsky is by no means a huge Bible fan. Now, I was raised Roman Catholic, so trust me when I say I don't know how I'm going to transition out of this without it getting awkward. But as someone who was raised Roman Catholic, I was not offended by this movie. And someone who really enjoys movies, who is really passionate about movies, I can understand why some liberties were taken regarding the overall narrative, just to make it just to make it a more dramatic story, make it more like a 3-act structure. But fair warning, there might be spoilers in this review, and also I'm going to talk about the trailers first. But if you want my quick review without any spoilers or any long-winded tangents, it's very good. Go see it. Um, I really like this movie, but with that said, I feel the need to talk about some of these trailers because, like with a lot of movies, I think the trailers are worth talking about. By far, the best trailer was the one for Transcendence, which up until this point I hadn't really thought much of. When I heard about Transcendence, which I believe is directed by Raleigh Fitzfer or something, the cinematographer for a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, I just said to myself, is this just going to be Christopher Nolan light? But after seeing this trailer, first of all, it looks like Johnny Depp actually giving a straight performance without a whole bunch of makeup plastered all over him. So already, hey, I'm interested. I mean, Johnny Depp doing something different from his usual weird roles um, is enough to get me to turn my head. But the movie looks really good. It looks like it's going to raise a lot of ethical questions about artificial intelligence and where we could potentially end up if we keep advancing in that field. Um, Maybe a little too heavy on the special effects at points, but overall, I think it has the potential to be a really fascinating movie, and I think the trailer sells it pretty well, all things considered. So, for the first time, I'm actually kind of looking forward to that one. Uh, let's see, what else? What else? What else? There was this thing called Get On Up. I think that was the title. It's a movie about James Brown, and it stars Chadwick Boseman, who previously played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, and I liked 42, but Chadwick Boseman as Jackie Robinson. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a stretch. He doesn't look bad in the movie because the clips that they showed in the trailer, he seemed to be giving it his all. Like he gave it his all in 42. I actually think he should have gotten more screen time in 42, but I digress. But he's in the movie, and so is Dan Aykroyd. Where the hell has Dan Aykroyd been? Apparently he's back, and he's in this movie about James Brown. Um, it doesn't look like my cup of tea. It says from the director of The Help. So of course it has either Viola Davis or Octavia Spencer, one of the two. Um, yeah, it's honestly, I don't think it looks very good. I don't really think the overall story looks. I think it looks pretty exaggerated. I think it looks pretty, for lack of a better term, Hollywoodized. But that trailer was basically walk the line compared to what came afterwards, which was the Transformers 4 trailer. Oh God. You know, I shouldn't have been surprised that Michael Bay returned to the Transformers movies after the enormous, undeserved success of Transformers 3. I should have known that any money grubbing guy like him would not in his right mind give up on a money making formula like this, because there are so many people who love the first three Transformers movies, as bad as they are. And he keeps on claiming, he and the writers and the producers keep on claiming that, oh, we're listening to the negative feedback, we're trying to do better, and then they keep making the same mistakes. Don't get me started on the Transformers movies, or Michael Bay or Aaron Kruger in general, but I will say this. Just judging from the trailer, it doesn't look as bad as the other three, but that ain't saying much. Now, I say it doesn't look as bad for two reasons. It still doesn't look very good, but two reasons that it looks slightly improved this time around. A, Shia LaBeouf is nowhere to be seen. Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox are completely gone from this. Instead, our lead character, who is unfortunately still one of the humans, is Mark Wahlberg. Now, Mark Wahlberg, I don't know, he's dumb looking and he plays a lot of dumb roles, but he doesn't get on my nerves like Shia LaBeouf. And I love this one comment I read when I was looking through some through the comments for some article on Transformers 4. I don't know. I love this one comment regarding the change in cast. It went something like, "There's one thing that Mark Wahlberg has that Shia LaBeouf has yet to demonstrate: testosterone." So that I got a kick out of that. So Mark Wahlberg, he could potentially win the franchise some new converts for those many people who hated and still hate Shia LaBeouf's whole character in those movies, because there was no point in the trailer that was like Shia LaBeouf coming in to do his little shtick and the numerous other comic relief characters. There wasn't really a whole lot of comic relief. That's the other reason. The trailer did not really look like it had a whole lot of obnoxious comic relief characters. I did not get one hint of some character like Deep Wang or Skids and Mudflap or the parents or John Turturro. I did not get one whiff of a character like that in the trailer, so this could potentially be better. At least judging from what has been revealed so far. But as of yet, I still have no faith in it, because it's still Michael Bay directing. It's still Aaron Kruger writing. Aaron Kruger, who still cannot write to save his life, or at least not write well. I don't know. This Transformers 4 is going to make a load of money, especially now that they've included the Dinobots. But I am by no means a Transformer fan. Not even pre Michael Bay. I have never been a huge Transformers fan. At most, I kind of watched an episode of Transformers Armada when it was on TV, and there was absolutely nothing else to watch for me, who was too young to enjoy some of the really graphic shows like Deadwood. Um, yeah, that's about it for the trailers, or at least that I can remember. But getting on to Noah. Now, already, I think the religious controversy over this movie has very nearly overshadowed the movie itself. There, this movie has been banned in so many places already that when I finally sat down to watch this movie, I really had to work hard to push all of this out of my mind, push all of this controversy out of my mind, because I honestly believe that for a movie, I think it got blown a bit out of proportion. Now, that might make me out to be a hypocrite in the eyes of some people, but a movie in itself is an interpretation of a story by a group of individuals. I mean, it is the filmmakers. It is their version of this story. But at the same time, I kind of understood where a lot of the faithfuls. I understood the qualms of a lot of the faithful, because the Bible, taking liberties with a biblical story, is very different, at least in terms of backlash, than taking liberties with something like I don't know, Harry Potter or Hunger Games or even Lord of the Rings or Narnia. It's a very different ball game when you deal with something like the Bible, because the Bible is something that is the Bible, and a lot of the stories like Noah and Jonah are stories that are worshipped on a huge scale by legions of followers. And for them to change something like that, I can understand how it would lead to a lot of hostility, because there isn't really anyone who seriously worships Harry Potter on, like, just religiously. There isn't really anyone who worships Lord of the Rings as their deity. So on that hand, I kind of understand, but also from the minute that Darren Aronofsky's name came up and his announcement that was going to be the least biblical film ever made, didn't really help much. So taking that into account, I was kind of prepared to at least attempt anyway to push all of that out of my head and just watch the movie and take in the movie based on its own merits. And on its own merits, I have to say, I really, really liked this movie. This, in my opinion, this is a great movie. This is the best movie I've seen all year, although that's not really saying much, because A, it's only March, and B, the only other movie I've seen this year is Jack Ryan. I haven't really been in the movies that much. But yeah, this really blew me away in several areas. It's your basic Noah story, or at least in setup, it's your basic Noah story, because Noah is tasked by the Creator. He's not called God in this movie. He's called the Creator. The Creator conveys to him through a dream that the world is about to end, and Noah is basically tasked with his family to build an ark to protect the innocent. The innocent in this case being the animals. The reason they are innocent is because unlike man, they have lived on the earth and treated the earth very well and very conservatively, and they have left the earth in the state that it was when they were put on the planet. They have not harmed the earth in any way. They have not harmed the environment. They have not harmed the Creator's creation. So with that said, Noah takes his family and goes to see his grandfather Methuselah, played by Anthony Hopkins, um, who gives him a seed from the Garden of Eden, and he plants the seed, and he's and it basically sprouts this stream and all these trees, which can be used for wood to build the ark. And animals come gathering around the ark. Noah, played by Russell Crowe, is struggling with the fact that he he can't he is not permitted. He does not feel that he is permitted to save any other humans. He's only permitted to save animals. Aside from himself and his family, the human race is basically going to be gone by the time this flood rolls around. Now, Noah himself is a descendant of Seth, because Adam and Eve had three children: Cain, Abel, and Seth. Now, Cain killed Abel, and afterwards built basically this empire of cities and weapons, and basically created this dominion of abuse and evil and violence. And his descendant is Tubal Cain, played by Ray Winstone. And Tubal Cain, basically, he has lost all faith in the Creator. He has basically come to take the ark along with all of his followers, and his motivation is that he feels that since man was created in God's image, he feels that man is the rightful master of the planet. He feels that man should have every right to take what he pleases, to kill what he pleases, to dominate over all other forms of life. And he doesn't feel that the animals should get to live and man gets to drown. So, in a different movie, he could actually be considered the good guy because he is technically trying to save the human race. Granted, a lot of the people following Tubal Cain are evil, or are painted as evil, and very wasteful, very violent. And Noah basically, he comes to the realization that the Creator logically assumes that since the Creator is wiping out all of mankind, he assumes that eventually the Creator wants him and his family to die too, without ever continuing the human race. He assumes that the Creator wants to eradicate all human life and start again without humans. So on top of dooming the entire human race, the fate of all the rest of these animal species rest on his shoulders. Now, Russell Crowe is fantastic in this movie. Russell Crowe, I had doubts, I will admit, when tough guy Russell Crowe was cast as the savior of humanity. I was like, really? Really? Because Russell Crowe is known for playing a lot of tough guy roles, like in Gladiator, LA Confidential, Master and Commander. And when I heard, now granted, he has done some pretty good dramatic roles, like The Insider, Cinderella Man, Beautiful Mind. So it wasn't entirely unheard of. I wasn't like, okay, this guy can't act, because he can act. And much to my surprise, the kind of edgier Noah that they went with, they don't make him a cold-blooded killer. With Russell Crowe in this movie, you really do get the sense that he really does not want to do what the Creator has tasked him to do. He really does not want to doom the human race. He really considers himself to be tremendously unworthy of this immense responsibility. And Crowe conveys all of these emotions beautifully, and more beautifully. So the fact that he is able to convey having literally the weight of the world on his shoulders and being burdened with such a task is a testament to Crowe's dramatic capability, and I think that really shines through his performance. He is really good in this movie. after seeing it, I cannot imagine how anyone else could have played the part of Noah in this film. Let's see. Ray Winstone is also very good as Tubal Cain. Now, Tubal Cain could have easily just been this one-dimensional bad guy. Because they even say at the beginning, man is evil, man has corrupted the planet, blah 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 blah. So Tubal Cain could have essentially just been a very broad painting of your stereotypical evil guy, this very boring character. But partially due to Ray Winstone's very passionate, very soulful performance, you really do feel for this guy. You see where he's coming from. You see why he feels the way he does. And like I said, in a different movie, he could be the good guy. You could easily see this story being told from the perspective of Tubal Cain. And not that he's a good guy in any sense of by any stretch of the word, but like I said, you see where he's coming from. You get a clear picture of his motivation. It's not a nice motivation, but his revolutionary outlook and his almost evolutionary, because he sees man as the dominant form of life on the earth. So he logically feels that man should be preserved at all cost. So the fact that they were able to make such a character like this interesting, and the fact that Ray Winstone acted it as well as he did, again, is a testament to Winstone's dramatic capability. So the two leads are fantastic. Jennifer Connelly is also very good as Noah's wife, although sadly she doesn't really get much to do toward the beginning. It's really in the second and third act where she really gets some juicy material to work with, and she gives one of the most heartbreaking performances in the movie. The acting all around was pretty solid. I mean, some performances were better than others, but I think a lot of that has to do with either the actor's experience or the fact that they were given more dramatic material to work with script-wise. But Jennifer Connelly was excellent as Noah's wife. Again, could have been a very boring character. Could have been a Stepford wife, honestly. But she's fantastic. You really want to shed a tear whenever she sheds a tear. She's that good. She's that convincing in this role. You get the sense that she would follow her husband to wherever he wants, but even she draws the line somewhere, and it is a very believable line that she draws. Emma Watson is basically on that same boat. She's just as good as Jennifer Connelly. She is so good in this movie. She is so heartbreaking in this movie as Ela, Noah's adopted daughter, who at first is what they call barren. She cannot bear children because she suffered a wound to her stomach at a very young age. But then later in the movie, she conceives twin girls. So she obviously has a lot of juicy material to work with in terms of how tragic a situation that her character is in. And Emma Watson finally gets some great material to work with outside of Harry Potter, because she was good in Perks of Being a Wildflower, but there was only so much you could do with her character because she was not the main character. She's not the main character in this, but I felt like there was more at stake here. I thought that emotionally she could go much deeper this time around, and I think she's really maturing as an actress. I think she definitely has the potential to be great. I've thought that since the mid-Harry Potter movies. I'm like, all three of the Harry Potter kids have the potential to be very good actresses, but I think the best of the three was Emma Watson. And her being in this movie and her keeping up with the likes of Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, Ray Winstone is again, I keep saying this. I don't mean to use this word so often in this type of movie. A testament to to um to her range as an actress, her dramatic capability. Uh, I really do sound like a broken record. I must still be sick. But Logan Lerman, this was the biggest issue for me in terms of skepticism, because as anyone who knows me will probably guess, I don't like Logan Lerman as an actor. I think he is boring. I think he is unlikable. I don't think he has much charisma. And up until this point, the only movie I actually liked him in was Perks of Being a Wallflower. Granted, that was a very depressing movie that I hope never to watch again, but it was a good movie, and the performances were good, and he was good in the movie, and he's good in this movie. Not quite as good as he was in Perks of Being a Wallflower, primarily because he's not the main character, and there's only so much you could do with Noah's jealous son with a role like that. He plays Ham, who is jealous of Shem because Shem gets to hook up with Ela, the Emma Watson character, and Ham is basically feeling left out because he basically has no one. He has no one to repopulate with, as it were. He, you know, they actually do a good job of lending this character more sympathy than I think anyone was expecting. Because this could have easily just been an Anakin Skywalker-esque role, where like, hey, no one loves me. This could have been the younger boy from Narnia, from the first Narnia movie, the really petulant little turd who teamed up with the White Witch because he wasn't as good as his older brother. Yeah. But no, they do make his motivations clear. You do get why he turns against his father, and he does redeem himself to an extent at the end. Not that there was much to redeem him from, because he's not really going like, I want revenge against my father. No, you can still tell that he loves his dad, but you can tell that this is a good guy who is going through some really rough patches with his dad right now, and to be honest, it's pretty understandable given the situation that they're in. So he was okay. Douglas Booth was not very good, though. But that's not really his fault. He plays Shem. Not really his fault that he wasn't very good, because honestly, this character is probably the most underdeveloped character in the movie. He is... If you ask me what his personality was, what his motivations were, I would not be able to answer you with any amount of certainty. They just completely ignore him personality-wise up until the last act, where the only character trait that they give him is he wants to protect his daughters, his twin daughters, and his wife. He wants to do something that logically we would expect him to want to do. So that's not really much to go on. Ham got more motivation than he did. Ham got a more interesting character arc than he did. Shem is just so devoid of personality in this movie. And again, that's not really Douglas Booth's fault. It's just the script did not give him anything to work with. So that's one of the only major issues with this movie, is that the character of Shem is completely underdeveloped. But aside from that, there are the locales that are features in this movie. These very Icelandic locations are just gorgeous. You really do get the sense that this is a much more untamed version of Earth. You get the sense that not really a whole lot of people populate it at this point in time. There is such a sense of I hate to use this word, heavenly scope about this movie. This feels appropriately enough like a huge movie. So that was one of the bigger challenges, I think, because how do you appropriately show the scale of such a cataclysmic event? And and Aronofsky pulls that off very well. The locations, like I just said, are gorgeous. I This movie could have easily been shot in 3D, and I think it would have enhanced the experience. If that makes sense. I'm normally against 3D, but in this case, I wouldn't have minded. The sets are also fantastic. The Ark was, or at least it looked like it was done completely practically. I don't recall any CG work done on the Ark except for when it's on the water, because obvious reasons. Um, the Ark looked full size. It looked like something that could hold this many residents, be it human or animal. And it looked very practical. It looked like, from a functionality perspective, it was it was just the major architectural achievement of this movie. And if they got the arc wrong, then the whole movie, or a big chunk of the movie, would have fallen apart. So they got the arc right. Um, but where the holes in the effects start to show, unfortunately, is with the CGI on the animals. Now, there are some that look okay. The bears look okay. The snakes look okay. Um, and some of the lizards look okay. But um, but everything else, the when it's showing the huge crowds of animals slowly gathering toward the ark, when it shows all the birds flying toward the ark, I was really checking out how comparatively poor the CGI looked in comparison to the CGI in the rest of the movie. Like the flood part of the movie, the whatever CGI enhancements were given to the to maybe the base of Tubal Cain. I it sticks out like a sore thumb, the CGI on these animals, because they lack texture. They look like CGI from the early 2000s, to be honest, or maybe not that bad. Maybe 2005, 2005, 2006. But I've seen CGI from the earliest days of CGI that looks better than this. Um, and I think it's the worst on the birds, probably because of their rapid movement. But the birds look the worst of all. The birds look so laughable in this movie. So I want to compliment the effects, but I can only compliment some of the effects. Um, but to be honest, the animals are not featured prominently enough to be a continuous distraction. I wasn't completely taken out of the movie every time they showed up, not like Life of Pi. And I could very well be opening up a whole can of worms for saying that. Like, Life of Pi's effects sucked. I've lost confidence. I've lost the confidence of a few people for saying that Life of Pi's effects, at least on the animals, sucked. But yeah, the effects here, they're not, at least on the animals, the effects on the animals are not quite up to par. I wish they had used real animals at least some of the time. But I suppose it does not kill the movie by any means. And like I've said before, they are not featured prominently enough to be a recurring issue, or at least not to the point where it ruins the movie. And that actually brings me to what I think this movie does really right, is that it tells the story of Noah and gives it a huge and relatable human element. Because, like I said, with the performances, they really help sell how emotionally draining this type of ordeal is, if it ever were to happen. And the fact that the script allows so much time to be devoted to Noah and his family and his personal struggle, A, gives the actors a lot of juicy material to work with, and B really lends a lot of gravitas to this to honestly a potentially fantasy oriented story. Speaking of fantasy, for anyone wondering how Noah could possibly build an ark by himself, the answer is he doesn't. He has some help from these fallen angels who fell to earth in their attempt to help man and were subsequently encased in this rock that hardened around them, and now they're these walking, twitchy rock creatures. Basically, the best way I can describe them is think of a cross between the Ents from the Lord of the Rings and the Rockbiter from Neverending Story. Yeah, that's basically what they are. Even down to how they talk. Because the way I can describe them talking, it's like the Ents, it's like Treebeard's voice, but instead of the very like airy respiratory sound that he made because John Rhys Davies he logically asked the question, well, how does a tree breathe that has no lungs? So you can imagine when Treebeard talks, you can imagine the air going through the hollow trunks that make him up. This sounds like these rock creatures' voices sound like they are navigating around the rocks. They sound very rough, very gravelly. So they do a pretty good job of selling the credibility, or at least selling as much credibility as you can muster, given something as out of this world as fallen angels animated as rock creatures. But it does answer the question, how does Noah build the ark? How does Noah hold off Tubal Cain for most of the movie? And yeah, I forgot to mention Anthony Hopkins. He's very good. He looks old as dirt in this movie, but he puts more effort into this than he does in the Thor movies. He's basically kind of like Yoda, where he offers occasional wisdom, but at the same time he's occasionally whimsy. So that's really the best way I can describe him, is kind of like Yoda, but he's not doing a carbon copy version of Yoda. He's not doing an impersonation of Yoda. He's very well cast. He does a very good job as Noah's grandfather, Methuselah. Honestly, I was pretty sad to see him go, but I felt that he was appropriately. I felt that he had accomplished what he needed to accomplish narratively and in terms of what his character wanted to accomplish. Yeah, that's about it. Really, the musical score is just so beautiful. The musical score, I was expecting this big sweeping orchestral score, kind of like in the Lord of the Rings movies or in the Narnia movies, and occasionally it goes for that, but a lot of the time the music sounds very it sounds very basic. It sounds like it was, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. It sounds oh my god, I'm beating myself up for this. I'm gonna beat myself up for this for not thinking of an appropriate adjective to describe the music, but it is fantastic. The music perfectly suits the movie. It's kind of eerie at several points, as I think it should be, for given the scenario. The music is just so beautiful to listen to. At times, at several points, it's very haunting. Again, suited to the situation. Overall, Noah is just, I felt, was just a fantastic movie. I really liked what Aronofsky did with it. The performances are stellar. The the set design and locations are just magnificent. The music is heartbreakingly beautiful. And and really the biggest compliment I can give this movie is that it preserves the saint like, the very almost divine nature, the very holy nature of the original scripture, while also adding this this very believable human element. It's very grounded in human emotion, and that makes for a very interesting watch. It's not overly artsy. It's not. It's not like It's not abstract to the point where it's difficult to follow. It's not overly pretentious. It's not The Fountain. It's better than Aronofsky's The Fountain. I honestly think I honestly think in some respects it's better than Black Swan. Although Black Swan, I guess you could chalk it up to it just not being my taste. I thought Black Swan a lot of the time was just weird for the sake of being weird, but at the same time, I got a lot of the symbols and imagery in that one. But I digress. Noah is just an excellent movie. I really loved it. It was paced well. The acting was good. The actually the acting was electrifying. The music was gorgeous. It was the music was music to your ears. Little redundant, but I'm going with it. The set design was fantastic. Really, the only areas where the movie stumbles are in the areas of some of the CGI and some of the development of of a few minor characters. But aside from that, the pros far outweigh the cons. This is a grand epic. This is a grand biblical epic in every meaning of the term. And I honestly think if you're going to bash this movie, I think should see it first. Because despite the fact that it has been billed as the least biblical movie ever made, and despite the fact that it has been banned in several countries and attacked by several religious groups, I think as a film, it succeeds in a lot of what it sets out to do. I really enjoyed this movie, and I am so glad I paid money to see it. And as for what little it's worth, I recommend it. And I think that if you give it a chance, if you allow yourself to buy what Aronofsky is selling, and you don't go into it with any preconceptions, I think you will come out with a very changed perspective on the whole ordeal. So, yeah, that's about it for Noah. Next week is hopefully a more upbeat movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So, until then, I will probably keep doing TV reviews throughout the week, and feel free to leave comments. Feel free to correct me on anything I might have got wrong, and I will talk to you later.